College money does not disappear like loose change in a couch cushion. It has statements, passwords, transfer limits, security questions, waiting periods, and enough boring paperwork to make a grown man give up before breakfast. That was why, when I opened my laptop at 6:40 on a Thursday morning and saw our daughter's 529 account sitting under a yellow warning banner that read withdrawal pending, review hold, my first thought was not panic. It was impossibility. I had checked that account every month for 16 years. Birthday money went in there. Tax refunds went in there. The bonus I earned after working 10 Saturdays straight went in there. My wife, Natalie, used to joke that I treated that fund like a third child. Maybe I did. Hannah had already been accepted to Ohio State, and Molly, 1 year behind her, had a stack of brochures spread across her bedroom floor like she was planning a road trip across America. That account was not just money. It was every late shift, every skipped vacation, every used sedan we kept driving because their future mattered more than our comfort. The balance should have been enough to cover Hannah's first tuition deposit, her housing deposit, and still leave Molly's share untouched. Instead, the available amount on the screen looked wrong by almost $48,000. I stared at the number so long the blue light made my eyes burn. Behind me, the coffee maker hissed, and I heard Natalie's bare feet stop at the edge of the kitchen tile. She did not ask what I was looking at. She did not ask why my shoulders had gone stiff. She just said, too quickly, don't panic. It's probably just a college processing thing. I slowly turned my head. The screen was angled away from her. I had not said college. I had not said processing. I had not said anything at all. Natalie stood in one of my old Michigan sweatshirts, her blonde hair pulled into a clean ponytail, her face calm in the exact way people look calm when they have rehearsed being calm. For a second, I wanted to believe she had simply guessed. Married people guess things. They read each other's moods. They fill in blanks. But the warning banner blinked again, and under the transaction line was a date from the night before, posted at 11:18 p.m. while I had been asleep in the den after helping Molly edit her scholarship essay. I clicked once, and a smaller window opened. Request received from verified household login. Destination review pending. Beneficiary authorization incomplete. Those words meant nothing and everything at the same time. Natalie stepped closer. Adam, maybe you should close that until I call someone. That was the second strange thing. Natalie hated calling financial companies. She made me call about insurance, credit cards, even the cable bill. But now, before I could touch the phone, she wanted to handle this herself. I moved the cursor away from the logout button and took a screenshot. Her mouth tightened just for a half second, but I saw it. On the kitchen table beside my laptop sat the navy folder I kept for the girls' college paperwork. Hannah and Molly, 529, and acceptance letters was written across the tab in black marker. The folder had been there since Sunday night, when Molly slid it toward me after dinner and said, "Dad, can you just check everything before Friday?" I had laughed and told her she was turning into me. She had not laughed back. Now I noticed a yellow sticky note tucked under the folder clip, half hidden beneath Hannah's housing packet. Molly's handwriting was small and uneven. Please check it before Friday. Not soon. Not when you can. Before Friday. I looked from that note to the frozen transfer window, then back at Natalie. Her eyes were not on the account anymore. They were on the folder. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. One of the girls was awake. Natalie whispered, "Adam, whatever you think this is, do not bring them into it." And that was when my phone rang. The caller ID showed 529 fraud review, and Natalie stopped breathing beside me. The ringtone seemed to fill the kitchen louder than it should have. Natalie reached for my phone before I did, and that small movement told me more than any confession could have. I picked it up first, not answering, just holding the screen between us while the words 529 fraud review glowed across the glass. Her face changed again, not into fear exactly, but into calculation. "Let go to voicemail," she said. "You do not know who that is. It says who it is. Scammers can make it say anything." Her voice was soft, careful, the voice she used when the girls were little and she wanted them to stop crying in a grocery store. But the softness did not calm me. It made the room feel staged. Upstairs, another floorboard creaked, And then Hannah appeared at the bottom of the stairs in sweatpants and an Ohio State hoodie, her hair still damp from the shower. Molly stood behind her in a t-shirt from a college tour we had taken in Columbus, clutching the stair rail with both hands. Neither of them looked confused. That was the first real crack in my chest. Children are supposed to look surprised when their father says money is missing. Mine looked scared that I had finally found it. The call stopped ringing. A voicemail notification appeared immediately. Natalie took one step toward the girls. "Go get ready. Your father and I are handling an account error." Hannah did not move. Molly looked at the navy folder on the table, then at the sticky note under the clip, and her eyes filled so fast she had to blink hard to keep the tears from falling. "Dad," she said, "please do not let her take that folder." Natalie snapped her head toward her. "Molly," just one word, but it landed like a door slamming shut. I looked down at the folder again. I had kept it organized for years, almost obsessively. Acceptance letters on the left. 529 statements on the right. Financial aid deadlines in the front pocket. Molly knew that. Hannah knew that. Natalie knew that too. I opened it slowly. Something was wrong before I read a single page. The metal fastener was bent the opposite way, like someone had opened it in a hurry and jammed it closed. Hannah's housing deposit checklist had been moved behind Molly's junior year transcript. A copy of Molly's learner permit, which had no reason to be there, sat clipped beside Hannah's acceptance letter. And in the front pocket, where I kept the latest quarterly statement, there was a sheet of paper I had never seen before. It was not official letterhead. It looked like something printed from an email, with one sentence highlighted in yellow. Both beneficiaries have expressed uncertainty about immediate enrollment. I read it twice because the words felt too neat to be accidental. "What is this?" I asked. Natalie said, "Planning notes." Hannah's voice shook. "That is not what we said." Natalie turned on her with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "You were emotional. You said many things." Molly stepped off the last stair. "No, you told us to say it." The kitchen went silent, except for the coffee maker clicking itself off. I could feel the phone still warm in my hand. One voicemail waited from the fraud department, and I suddenly understood why Molly's sticky note had said before Friday. Friday was not just a deadline. Friday was a wall Natalie expected us to hit blind. I tapped the voicemail icon, but before I could play it, Natalie reached across the table and closed the navy folder with her palm flat on top of Molly's note. "Adam," she said, "if you play that message in front of them, you're going to damage this family in a way you cannot fix." For the first time that morning, Hannah stepped between her mother and the table. She was 18, but in that moment she looked both older and younger than I had ever seen her. "Dad," she whispered, asked the woman on the voicemail whose voice they used. I did not play the voicemail right away. Not because Natalie asked me not to, and not because I believed her warning about damaging the family. I paused because Hannah's question was too specific. Ask whose voice they used. Not ask what happened. Not ask if the money was gone. She already knew there had been a voice. My thumb hovered over the screen while the kitchen seemed to shrink around us. Natalie kept her palm on the navy folder, holding it shut as if paper could stay quiet if enough pressure was put on top of it. Molly stood beside Hannah now, both of them looking at me with the same expression I had seen years earlier when they were small and waiting for thunder to pass. "Girls," I said carefully, "what voice?" Natalie answered before they could. They're confused. They heard pieces of an adult conversation and built a story out of it. Hannah looked at her mother and said, "No, we heard you practice." That sentence changed the temperature in the room. Natalie removed her hand from the folder slowly. I tapped the voicemail. A woman's professional voice filled the kitchen, calm and clipped, the kind of voice built for account numbers and recorded lines. "Mr. Whitaker, this is Elaine Porter with Great Lakes Education Savings regarding a flag distribution request on your daughter's 529 plan. Our review team was unable to verify beneficiary authorization from the submitted audio confirmation. Please return this call before close of business Friday to prevent automatic cancellation or escalation." The message ended. Nobody moved. Submitted audio confirmation. Those 3 words stood between us like another person at the table. Natalie let out a small laugh, but it came too late and landed wrong. That proves my point. It is a scam. Audio confirmación? Come on, Adam. Molly reached into the sleeve of her hoodie and pulled out her phone. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was steadier than mine felt. I recorded it because Hannah told me to. Natalie took a sharp breath. You recorded your mother? Molly did not look at her. She looked at me. Not on purpose at first. I was in the hallway. She tapped her screen, then stopped herself. It is not bad. It is just her saying lines. That was somehow worse than if it had sounded dramatic. Lines meant rehearsal. Lines meant planning. Hannah moved to the table and opened the navy folder again, sliding out the paper with a highlighted sentence. Under it was a second page I had missed, folded in half and tucked behind Molly's learner permit copy. Across the top, in plain black type, were the words beneficiary contact script. My name was not on it. Natalie's was. So were Hannah's and Molly's, but beside their name someone had written hesitant about enrollment. Father pressuring timeline. Family needs temporary flexibility. I read the phrases without understanding how they could belong to my family. Temporary flexibility was not a tuition plan. Father pressuring timeline was not a description of me helping with essays at midnight. It was a frame, a way to make concern look like control. I looked up at Natalie, and for the first time she did not try to soften her face. She looked tired, irritated, almost offended that the morning was not going according to whatever version she had prepared. You do push them, she said. You make everything about college like there is only one correct life. Hannah's eyes flashed. I wanted Ohio State. Molly added, quieter, I wanted him to check because you said after Friday it would not matter. The phone rang again in my hand, the same number, and this time I answered. This is Adam Whitaker. Elaine Porter asked me to verify my identity, then said, Sir, before we discuss the failed audio authorization, I need to confirm whether you recognize the destination label attached to the pending transfer. I swallowed. What destination label? There was a brief pause, then paper rustled on her end. It is listed as Maple Ridge Escrow Services. Natalie whispered one word behind me, under her breath, so quietly I nearly missed it completely. No, Elaine Porter did not let the silence stretch. She spoke as if she had handled hundreds of frightened families, and maybe she had, but there was a new sharpness in her voice after I repeated the name Maple Ridge Escrow Services. Mr. Whitaker, I need you to understand what I can and cannot say while the review hold is active. The distribution was submitted as a qualified education expense, but the destination category does not match a university, student housing provider, loan servicer, or approved tuition processor. I looked at the laptop, then at the Navy folder, then at Natalie. She had backed away from the table until her hip touched the kitchen island. Hannah whispered, Escrow means a house, right? Molly answered before I could. Sometimes. Natalie turned toward her with a look that begged her not to keep talking, but Molly was done folding herself smaller. She picked up the yellow sticky note and pressed it flat against the folder cover. That is why I said before Friday. Elaine continued. There is also a beneficiary authorization issue. A voice file was uploaded, but our system could not match it to either beneficiary profile. Uploaded by who? I asked. The household login associated with Mrs. Natalie Whitaker. Natalie closed her eyes. Just once. Then she opened them and said, Because I manage household paperwork too. That does not mean I stole from my children. The word stole had not been used by anyone until she said it. Even Elaine went quiet for half a second. I asked if she could send the failed authorization report to my email. She said she could send a secure notice confirming the review hold, the mismatched destination category, and the need for direct beneficiary verification. She could not send a voice file unless the case escalated, but she could schedule a recorded call with Hannah and Molly after confirming their identities. Hannah stepped closer to the phone. I can do that. Natalie said, Absolutely not. She's still a teenager. Elaine answered before I could. If Hannah is 18, she may verify her own beneficiary status. Molly would need a guardian present, and based on the conflict noted here, we may require both account holders to remain silent during her statement. Conflict noted here. That phrase made my stomach tighten. What conflict? I asked. Papers shifted on Elaine's end again. A note was added to the request stating that the beneficiaries were emotionally distressed due to pressure from one parent and preferred no direct contact until after the transfer cleared. Hannah's face went pale. Molly covered her mouth with her sleeve. I did not need anyone to explain which parent the note meant. Natalie had built a version of me inside the paperwork before I even knew the paperwork existed. It was not enough to move the money. She had prepared a reason why no one should believe me when I objected. I reached into the Navy folder and pulled out the highlighted sheet. Both beneficiaries have expressed uncertainty about immediate enrollment. Now it sat beside the official account warning like two halves of the same lie. Elaine, I said, forcing my voice to stay even, if this transfer is not approved, what happens to the money? It remains in the 529 plan, pending review. For the first time all morning, I breathed. Not fully, but enough. Then Elaine added, however, if the destination party submits matching escrow documentation before close of business, the review team may request additional family verification immediately. Natalie looked toward the hallway, toward the small bench where her purse sat. I followed her eyes. A white envelope stuck out from the side pocket, thick enough to hold contracts. Printed across the top corner were 3 words I had never seen in our home before: Maple Ridge Townhomes. Hannah saw it too. Molly did as well. Natalie moved first. She did not reach for her purse like someone protecting privacy. She reached for it like someone trying to save the last piece of plan. I stepped around the table, and when the envelope slid free, the first page was not a contract. It was a closing appointment tomorrow. The page was headed Maple Ridge Townhomes Closing Schedule, and underneath it, in the tidy language of real estate paperwork, was a date, a time, and Natalie's name printed alone on the buyer line. Not Adam and Natalie Whitaker. Not the Whitaker family. Just Natalie Claire Whitaker, with a cashier's check amount circled in blue ink. $47,800. The number was close enough to the missing 529 money that my hands went cold before my mind caught up. Hannah leaned over my shoulder, saw the amount, and stepped back like the paper itself had said something cruel. Molly stared at her mother. Not angry yet, just stunned in the way a person looks when the last safe explanation disappears. Natalie reached for the schedule, but I held it against the table with 2 fingers. This is tomorrow, I said. You were closing on a townhouse tomorrow. She folded her arms, tried to rebuild the version of herself that always sounded reasonable. It was not for me. It was for stability. Whose stability? Hannah asked. Natalie looked at her, and for the first time all morning her voice cracked. Ours. Mine. Yours. Your sister's. We needed options. Molly shook her head. You said college was the option. Elaine was still on speaker, quiet but present, an official witness to a conversation my wife clearly wished had stayed private. Mr. Whitaker, she said gently, I should disconnect if this has moved into a personal matter. No, Natalie said quickly, then caught herself. I mean, yes. This is private, but was not private anymore. Not because I wanted to embarrass her. Because she had attached our daughter's college savings to a formal transfer, attached my name to a pressure narrative, and attached Hannah and Molly to words they had not chosen. I asked Elaine one more question. If that escrow office sends matching paperwork today, can they still argue this is an education-related expense? Elaine hesitated. They can attempt to supplement the request, but an escrow destination would not normally qualify unless it connects directly to approved student housing and proper beneficiary documentation. Based on the current mismatch, any additional document would intensify review. That was the first real mini-release of the morning. The plan was not as clean as Natalie thought. It had cracks. I thanked Elaine, confirmed the secure verification window for later that day, and ended the call. The second the line went dead, Natalie changed tactics. She sat down at the table, not across from me, but beside the Navy folder like she could reclaim authority by sitting near it. Adam, listen to me without turning this into a trial. Hannah is 18. Molly is almost there. They're overwhelmed. You know they are. I was trying to create room for them to breathe. Hannah whispered, by emptying our fund? Natalie looked wounded by the word emptying, as if the cruelty was in naming it. The money was not gone. It was being moved. To a house with only your name on it, I said. Her jaw tightened. Then Molly lifted her phone. There is more. Natalie's face shifted so fast, I knew the next thing mattered. Molly opened her recording app, but instead of playing audio, she showed me a screenshot of a message thread. The sender was saved as Todd Keller. I recognized the name from the family financial seminar Natalie had attended at the library 2 months earlier. The message read, "If Adam sees the account before Friday, stay focused on the girls needing a pause. Do not debate the escrow." I looked at the timestamp. Wednesday night, 10:54 p.m., 24 minutes before the withdrawal request. Under it, Todd had sent an attachment titled 529 Family Reallocation Language. Natalie stood, her chair scraping back across the tile. "Molly, you had no right to go through my phone." Molly did not flinch this time. "You left it open when you made us practice." I tapped the attachment, and the first line made Hannah gasp. It said, "Begin with concern, not money, and describe Adam as resistant to any flexible plan before he knows the transfer has cleared." Then came the prepared sentence. The prepared sentence read, "Both beneficiaries have expressed uncertainty about immediate enrollment and have requested temporary family flexibility while evaluating emotional readiness." I had seen that sentence already on the page inside the Navy folder, but seeing it inside Todd Keller's attachment made it feel different. It was no longer a strange note. It was a weapon someone had polished before Natalie ever used it. Hannah took the phone from Molly and scrolled lower, her thumb moving carefully like she was afraid the screen might burn her. Todd had broken the plan into headings. Opening tone, father response management, escrow explanation, deadline containment. Those words sounded like they belonged in a corporate memo, not in a family kitchen next to a half-full coffee mug and 2 girls who still had backpacks by the stairs. Natalie tried to take the phone, but Hannah stepped back. "You made us sound unstable," she said. "No, Natalie replied. I made you sound human." "You made Dad sound dangerous for asking questions," Molly said. I looked at the attachment again. Under father response management, Todd had written, "If Adam challenges the transfer, redirect to concern about pressure, control, and unrealistic expectations. Avoid discussing the escrow until after Friday." Friday again. That one word had become the center of everything. Not because it was a date on a calendar, but because it was the day Natalie expected the door to close behind us. The deadline was not only Hannah's housing deposit. It was the closing appointment. It was the review window. It was the moment the girl's future could become someone else's down payment, while I stood there looking unreasonable for objecting. I asked Natalie one question. Does Todd know this was Hannah and Molly's college fund? She did not answer quickly enough. Hannah made a small sound, not a sob, not a laugh, something in between. "Mom told him Grandpa gifted the money." I turned to her. "How do you know that?" Molly unlocked her phone again and opened a second screenshot. This one was a message for Natalie to Todd. It said, "Adam treats the account like it is sacred because the girls are involved, so do not phrase this as a withdrawal. Phrase it as repositioning family liquidity." Below it, Todd had replied, "Understood. If the children are uncertain about college, the emotional argument is stronger than the financial one." I read that line 3 times. The children. Not Hannah. Not Molly. Just the children, like they were 2 variables in a spreadsheet. Natalie finally sat down again, but the performance had left her. Without the calm voice, without the prepared language, she looked smaller than I expected. Not sorry, just exposed. "You never listen when I say this family is suffocating," she said. "Everything has been about saving, planning, delaying. I wanted one thing that was mine." Hannah's face crumpled. "So you picked our future." That was the emotional turn I was not ready for. I had been focused on money because money leaves numbers behind. But Hannah was looking at her mother like she had just learned she was negotiable. Molly took the Navy folder, pulled out her sticky note, and smoothed it against the cover with both hands. "I wrote this because she said if you checked too late, you would have to accept it," she said. "She said grown-ups can make things final." Before I could respond, the house phone rang. We almost never used it anymore. I had forgotten the sound could still come from the wall by the pantry. Natalie looked toward it, and whatever color remained in her face drained away. I answered on speaker. A woman introduced herself as Rebecca Shaw from Ohio State Student Financial Aid. Her first question was not about tuition. It was, Mr. Whitaker, are Hannah and Molly present? And is Mrs. Whitaker still requesting that we delay direct contact with you until after tomorrow? I looked at Natalie, then at our daughters, and for the first time that morning, the missing money felt like only the surface. Rebecca already knew about the delay, which meant Natalie had called the school before the 529 transfer ever froze inside our own kitchen. Rebecca Shaw's question landed harder than the missing balance because it came from outside our house. It meant Natalie's story had already traveled beyond our kitchen, beyond Todd Keller's script, beyond the private arguments she kept trying to dress up as concern. I told Rebecca that Hannah and Molly were present, and that Natalie no longer had permission to speak for any of us. Natalie made it sound like my name had become an accusation. Rebecca paused, then said, "For compliance, I need to clarify that I am calling because Hannah's housing deposit is due tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern, and our office received a parental request asking us to note a possible enrollment deferral." Hannah grabbed the edge of the table. "I never requested that." Rebecca's tone changed immediately. "Hannah, are you comfortable confirming your full name and date of birth?" Natalie stepped forward. She should not answer personal questions on a random call. This time Hannah did not look at her mother for permission. She gave the information clearly, then added, "I am attending. I accepted my offer. I have been planning to attend." There was typing on Rebecca's end, fast and steady. "Thank you. That contradicts the note we received Monday afternoon." Monday, 3 days before the transfer. 3 days before the frozen screen. Natalie had not panicked after the money moved. She had prepared the school first. Rebecca explained that a woman identifying herself as Hannah's mother had called to say Hannah was uncertain, emotionally overwhelmed, and likely to pause enrollment for family reasons. The caller also said Molly, though not yet an incoming student, was reconsidering college entirely because of pressure at home. Molly looked as if the sentence had taken the air out of her. She said, "I was not going." "She said you were leaning away from college," Rebecca replied carefully. The phrase in our note is probably would not attend without a family reset. Hannah turned toward Natalie. "You made us sound broken." Natalie's face tightened, but she did not deny it. She went to the sink and gripped the counter with both hands, staring out at the backyard where Molly's old soccer goal still leaned against the fence. "I was trying to slow everything down," she said. "You were all racing toward a life where I was just the person signing forms." For a second, I almost heard the hurt beneath it. Then I looked at the Navy folder, at Molly's sticky note, at the Maple Ridge closing schedule, and whatever sympathy tried to rise in me met the facts and stopped. Rebecca continued, "There is another issue. The caller requested that direct contact with Adam Whitaker be delayed until after Friday because, according to her, he might react emotionally to any change in enrollment status." Molly whispered, "That is what Todd wrote." I opened Todd's attachment again and found the line under deadline containment. School contact should be minimized until acceptance pressure is passed. Rebecca asked us to send documentation within 2 hours if Hannah wanted her housing slot protected while the financial source was reviewed. 2 hours. Not days. Not a week. 2 hours to keep Natalie's plan from becoming real in 2 different systems. I asked what she needed. Rebecca listed Hannah's direct confirmation, a copy of the 529 review hold, proof that no valid deferral had been requested, and, if possible, a statement from Molly confirming she had not authorized any claim about abandoning college. Molly straightened. Her voice was small, but it did not shake anymore. "I can say that." Natalie turned from the sink. "Molly, please, think about what you are doing." Molly looked at her, then placed the yellow sticky note on top of Hannah's acceptance letter. "I'm thinking about it. That is why I wrote this." Rebecca said she could coordinate with Great Lakes Education Savings if we authorized a 3-way verification. Before I could answer, my laptop chimed. A secure email from Elaine Porter had arrived, and the subject line read, "Urgent. Escrow party submitted supplemental documents." Natalie saw it too, and for once, she did not reach for the folder. She reached for the closing envelope instead beside her purse. I opened Elaine's secure email before Natalie could lift the Maple Ridge envelope. The message did not include the voice file, but it included something worse for her. A review summary with timestamps. Request submitted Wednesday at 11:18 p.m. Household login verified through Natalie Whitaker's phone. Destination amended Thursday at 7:03 a.m. Supplemental escrow packet received Thursday at 7:41 a.m. I looked at the clock over the stove. It was 7:44. Someone had sent new paperwork 3 minutes earlier, while we were standing in the kitchen trying to understand the old paperwork. Rebecca Shaw was still on the house phone, and Elaine called my cell before I could dial her back. I put both calls on speaker, one on a wall phone, one on my cell, and set them beside the Navy folder. It felt absurd, two official voices crossing through a kitchen where cereal bowls still sat in the sink, but that was the only thing keeping the truth from being buried under better phrasing. For once, the process mattered more than her performance in the room. Elaine confirmed she had received an escrow supplement claiming the Maple Ridge unit would be used as transitional student housing for Hannah and Molly. Hannah said, "I have never even seen Maple Ridge." Molly added, "I do not want to live there." Rebecca said Ohio State had no housing partnership, private lease record, or approved student address connected to Maple Ridge townhomes. Then Elaine read the line that made Natalie finally sit down. Supplemental note states beneficiaries requested off-campus family housing due to emotional discomfort with traditional dorm placement. Hannah laughed once, sharp and hurt. "Mom, you pick my anxiety as the excuse?" Natalie pressed her fingers to her forehead. "I was trying to keep you close." "No," Molly said. "You were trying to keep the money close." That was the moment the room stopped belonging to Natalie's version of events. Elaine asked if Hannah would make a direct beneficiary statement. Hannah stood beside the table, one hand on her acceptance letter, and said she wanted her 529 funds preserved for tuition, housing, books, and approved school expenses. She had not authorized any withdrawal to Maple Ridge, any escrow payment, or any deferral. Rebecca recorded her statement and confirmed the housing deposit deadline would be placed on temporary administrative hold. Then it was Molly's turn. Because she was 17, Elaine asked me to confirm I was present and not coaching her. I stepped back from the table where everyone could see my hands. Molly looked at the sticky note she had written, the one that had seemed so small at the beginning of the morning, and she said, "I did not authorize my college money to be moved. I did not say I was giving up college. I wrote that note because I was scared my dad would check too late." Natalie covered her mouth, but no sound came out. Elaine asked one final question. "Molly, did anyone ask you to rehearse a statement about delaying college?" Molly looked at her mother for a long second. Then she answered, "Yes. My mother did. She said if we sounded uncertain, Dad would have to accept it." Rebecca stopped typing. Elaine stopped typing. I could hear both silences through two different speakers. Then Elaine said, "Based on direct beneficiary contradiction, mismatched destination category, failed audio authorization, and supplemental escrow inconsistency, Great Lakes Education Savings is freezing the distribution pending formal review." My laptop refreshed. The yellow banner changed. Transfer frozen. The words filled the screen like a door locking. Hannah reached for Molly's hand. I did not celebrate. I did not speak. I just stared at the Navy folder, now holding the acceptance letters, the sticky note, the escrow schedule, and a truth none of U.S. could put back where it came from. Natalie looked at the screen, then at the girls, then at me. For the first time all morning, she did not argue. She whispered, "You do not understand what Todd promised me." And before I could ask what that meant, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "Adam, do not let Natalie sign anything at Maple Ridge." The unknown number sent a second message before I could decide whether to reply. "This is Daniel Price, closing coordinator for Maple Ridge. Todd Keller told us your wife had sole authority, but the paperwork says joint family education funds may be involved. Call me." I read it aloud, and Natalie sank into the chair as if the legs had disappeared underneath her. Todd had not promised her a clean escape. He had promised her that no one would check fast enough. Elaine stayed on speaker while I called Daniel. He sounded nervous the moment he answered, like a man who had just realized polite paperwork can still carry weight. He confirmed Natalie had a closing appointment for the next morning, But the escrow supplement was incomplete because the source of funds had been described as education savings being converted for approved student housing. Daniel said Todd had assured him the beneficiaries agreed and that I was unavailable due to family conflict. "Mr. Whitaker," he said, "I requested written confirmation this morning because the file did not feel right." Natalie finally spoke, but not to me. "Todd said it was legal," Daniel answered. "Mrs. Whitaker, legal is not the same as complete." Those words did what yelling never could. They removed the last polished cover from the plan. Rebecca asked Daniel to confirm Maple Ridge had no connection to Ohio State housing. He did. Elaine asked whether the escrow account had accepted funds yet. It had not. The transfer freeze had stopped the money before it crossed the line Natalie could not uncross. I looked at Hannah and Molly, and for the first time that morning, their faces held something besides fear. Not happiness, not relief yet, just the beginning of air returning to a room. Elaine said formal review would continue, but based on direct beneficiary statements, destination mismatch, failed audio authorization, and the escrow coordinator's confirmation, the distribution would not proceed. Rebecca then confirmed Hannah's housing deposit hold in writing and sent a secure link so Hannah could submit her direct acceptance statement before 5 o'clock. Molly asked if her future account was safe too. Elaine told her no future distribution would be processed without enhanced verification. Molly sat down hard and cried silently, one hand still gripping the yellow sticky note. Natalie watched her, and something in her expression broke, not in a way that fixed anything, but a way that proved she finally understood who had paid the price for her wanting one thing that was hers. "I thought if I had the townhouse, I could start over without being trapped," she said. Hannah wiped her face. "You used us as the door. No one had an answer for that." I took the Navy folder and began placing everything inside in order. Hannah's acceptance letter, Molly's brochures, the original 529 statement, the review hold notice, the Maple Ridge closing schedule, Todd's attachment, Rebecca's email, Elaine's freeze confirmation. Last, I pressed Molly's sticky note onto the inside cover. No longer half-hidden, no longer a warning I had missed. "Please check it before Friday." It had saved more than money. It had saved the girls from believing their voices were too small to stop an adult decision. Natalie asked if she could speak with them later. I did not answer for them. Hannah said she needed time. Molly said the same. That mattered. They were choosing their own words now. By noon, Hannah's housing slot was protected. By 3, the 529 review file showed the distribution as blocked. By 5, Rebecca confirmed the deposit extension. The Navy folder, once just my over-organized dad habit, sat in the center of the kitchen table like a quiet record of what had happened. That night, I drove Hannah and Molly to campus to hand-deliver one form Rebecca still wanted. On the way home, Molly rested the folder on her lap, fingers on the sticky note. "Dad," she said, "you believed us." I kept my eyes on the road because if I looked at them, I would not be able to speak. "I should have checked sooner," I said. Hannah leaned forward from the back seat. "You checked in time.